He is the U.S. Special Envoy to the Middle East, but Steve Witkoff has arrived today in Moscow for further talks on the Russia-Ukraine peace deal. This is believed to be video of his motorcade. Now, those meetings come as the mayor of Kyiv says Ukraine may have to concede land a day after his city and others came under major Russian attack. CBC's Crystal Gamansing is following the story for us from London. So, Crystal, let's start with the Kyiv's mayor's comments. You've got this senior politician, high profile, saying something that most Ukrainians have resisted saying up until now, that maybe it's time to concede at least something to Russia. How is that being received? Talk a bit more about that.
Well, Natasha, this really does speak to the war fatigue that Ukrainians are experiencing. And even during that interview with the BBC, Vitali Klitschko said it would be something that would be a very difficult choice, that even if some Ukrainian territory was conceded to Russia, it would be something that the majority of Ukrainians would never actually accept. But it does suggest that Ukrainians are starting to look at the current situation. As you mentioned, Kyiv yesterday experiencing one of the most aggressive bombardments in several months at the hands of Russian drone and missile attacks. And so you have a very popular, very powerful mayor of the capital, someone who has been a vocal opponent of Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, saying, listen, maybe we should look at this. Maybe it might have to happen.
Right now, a lot of conversation about possible solution. And one of the scenario, what you say is to give up the territory. It's not fair, but for the peace, temporary peace, maybe it can be solution, temporary.
I believe the key there, Natasha, is that he said temporary several times, and that maybe is the point. We have heard earlier this week, the U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance saying that there would have to be territorial concessions, that potentially the agreement would see the lines of contact frozen where they are pretty much right now. And it's believed that a part of the U.S. proposal that was put before the two parties, Ukraine and Russia, would be the Americans recognizing the annexation of Crimea, which happened back in 2014, and acknowledging that that is Russian territory. The Ukrainian president has many, many times said that would not happen. He is against that. And he's also said it's not just him personally, it's not just a moral situation for Ukrainians, but it would go against the Ukrainian constitution. In theory, that would suggest that for Ukraine to accept such a concession, it would have to be put to a referendum, Natasha.
Okay, but nevertheless, we've got a situation where Steve Witkoff is in the region hoping to press forward with a deal as a very senior representative of the Donald Trump administration. And so on President Trump, Crystal, you and I were speaking yesterday about how President Trump, was criticizing Volodymyr Zelensky. Today, he's taking aim at Russia. What is he saying?
Yeah, that's right. You know, this conversation has changed several times to the pressure on who is America putting more pressure on. And if you look back, the U.S. president has been more publicly putting pressure on Ukraine. He did say yesterday that he is also putting pressure on Russia, that he was asked specifically about concessions from Russia. And he outright said, well, a concession is Russia stopping the war, not taking the entire country. Worth noting that that was the Kremlin's line at the very start of the full-scale invasion back in 2022. But he says both sides do appear ready to make some sort of deal.
I think they both want to make peace. I do believe so. There's a lot of hatred there. There's a lot of very bad blood, a lot of distrust. But I think I hope we're going to get there for the sake of a lot of young people that are dying.
As you mentioned, Natasha, Steve Witkoff, the White House's special envoy to the Middle East, back in Moscow. It is his fourth visit since January, and it is suggested that he will be sitting down with Russian President Vladimir Putin, trying to see exactly where the situation is, what can be discussed, if there's any sort of other concessions. Worth noting that the news agency Reuters is suggesting that Ukrainian and European leaders proposed a counter-offer to the American proposal. So we are waiting to see if any progress will come out of that meeting in Moscow today.
CBC's Crystal Gamansing in London. Thank you, Crystal.
You're welcome.